In our society today, life for our children is better than it's ever been, and they have more opportunities and longer life expectancy. Yet this is overshadowed by our increasing fears for their safety. History tells us that life was far more dangerous 100 years ago. Why do we have these fears, and why do we feel the need to wrap our children in cotton wool?
When I was little, we used to come and stay with my auntie in Cornwall, right by a beach, and she used to, well, not far from the beach, she used to drop us there in the morning with a bit of money for lunch and that, and just leave us there all day, and then just pick us up when we rang and said we were time to come home.
Doesn't matter where they are, if I can't see them, I panic. It's really, I am terrible. My mum seems to let us have like quite a free rein, but I freak.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave my kids on the beach all day. I'd let them run riot, do what they wanted, as long as I was sure they were safe. But I wouldn't just leave them because I'd be too scared. Because you don't know, well, you don't know who's about, do you? You don't know what's going to happen.
We had not sailed for half an hour before we met.
I absolutely freak out. I don't know whether or not it's things that go on in like stories that you read about different people and things like that, but I am absolutely terrible.
People are more protected of their kids now. Like I was allowed to go out, you know, from morning and come back tea time, but I wouldn't let Marianne and Siobhan do that until they got to about 15. It was a little bit different then. When I was growing up, you could leave your front door open and things like that. Anybody, you know, everybody used to walk in and out, but you can't do that. You couldn't do that when they were little, and they're only in their 20s.
You were allowed to go wander off, but you had to be like where you can be seen, where nowadays you have to be really careful with children, where when I was younger, children used to run free nudie on the beach and things like that. We can't do that anymore, wherever you are.
We used to have boundaries. You were allowed between so far. You sort of always say you could go there, you could go there, but we used to have the free run of it. As long as we knew the spot they were at, we could just get on with it and thingy, but I can't now. You think it would be, I don't know, maybe it's the people, different stories that come out, different people, but I don't let mine out anywhere. I can't help it. Oh, frightens me.
When I was a child, it wasn't that much publicised about, certain people and things. And nowadays, health and safety is all the thing, isn't it? Everybody goes on about health and safety, but when I was a kid, it didn't bother anybody. You just got on with it. If you had an accident, you had an accident. But now you're just like constantly worried because there's so much media about it. You're constantly worried that your child's going to get or hurt themselves or whatever.
When you turn on the TV, you have 20 channels dedicated to news. Newspapers with shocking headlines. Freedom of information via the internet. Bad news sells.
Everything happening in the world, isn't it, really? With people, that you can't be sure about in trust and things like that.
I haven't got a clue whether or not it's the stuff going on like in the papers and you don't know who to trust anymore. My nana always used to say you could leave the front door open when I was a kid.
People don't trust people around because you don't know who you're on the beach with or who's behind you or in front of you. You just don't know nothing.
Devonport has always had a bad reputation among non-residents, but we feel safer in Devonport than we would anywhere else. However, reports of antisocial behaviour and of singular bad families even influence the decisions we make for our own children.
We could wander anywhere, in Devonport. We go down Mount Wise swimming on our own. You couldn't send your children from Cornwall Street down to Mount Wise now and think they'd be fine because you don't know what's going to happen on there.
My kids go out, they got on the telephone all the time. Where to? What are you doing? It's like, Mum, go away. And I don't even let my younger ones out.
We used to go down swimming down in the pontoon, down at the bottom of the road there. Do you know what I mean? There was no fear or, you just used to go down there and crappy beach, but it was always manked up with something. Like the beaches are better now because they've got not so much rubbish in them from when I went to a beach.
Local councils and marine organisations have spent thousands reducing the sewage and litter on our beaches. They are far cleaner and more hygienic than 20 years ago, yet we waste this fantastic resource right on our doorstep.
Because they're not going to be able to go off and explore on their own, are they? You have to have an adult with you all the time. Like, we've just been over there at the rock pools, but there's adults. I never had that when I went rock pooling. You could go over, like I said, you have to be back at a certain time. Really, my grandchildren have to grow up in that environment, do you know what I mean, where they can't be allowed to go off on their own and things like that, and it really takes the adventure out of going off by yourself.
I'm loosening a little bit, if you know what I mean. I'm letting them do that a little bit more because it's not going to help them when they grow up. They're going to be so... My brother's a mummy's boy because he was wrapped in cotton wool. He was the youngest. So he is an absolute mummy's boy. He still lives at home with my mum now. I don't want him living at home with me when they're 30.
I've noticed my kids are a lot more cautious about doing stuff, you know, so they're probably going to do that in, you know, the whole of their lives, be cautious about what they do because of, you know, the way I've wrapped them up, basically.